You got leads. Mitch and Murray paid good money. Get their names to sell them. You can't close the leads you're given. You can't close shit. You are shit. Hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, because you are going out.
The leads are weak.
The leads are weak. The fucking leads are weak. You're weak. I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
Fuck you. That's my name. You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name. And your name is you're wanting. And you can't play in the man's game. You can't close them. Then go home and tell your wife your troubles. Because only one thing counts in this life. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted. You hear me, you fucking faggots? A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Welcome, everybody, to the Beneath the Surface series where you, the viewer, get to pick what it is I talk about. This week, you wanted me to go in on capitalism, and we will, but a few things I should point out first. If you want to have your idea heard in next week's video, be sure to post it in the comment section below, and if you find a cool idea, like that comment. That way we can keep this organized. Also, if my mic makes a weird clicking noise, it just is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I've tried to do something about it. I've done everything I could, but until I get a better mic for YouTube, which costs some money, I'm going to have to just chill out and wait probably till my birthday to invest in that. So, capitalism. It's such a huge topic, and I don't want to define capitalism because this isn't a fucking school. And you guys can look up what capitalism is if you don't know. But I want to talk about, first, Democrats and Republicans, because that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, where you have Democrats that believe in one idea of capitalism and Republicans that believe in another. And, by the way, we're going to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit. I'm going to touch on a bunch of different subjects, and hopefully they all connect. If they don't, well, you know, it is what it is. We did our best. Pull the mic away from my mouth a little bit. There we go. Okay, so Democrats typically believe, and this is from my own personal experience from talking to people. I have part of my family is Canadian, so they are very democratic in the sense that they think that government should impose heavy regulations in the market and make sure that everyone's playing fairly and, you know, make sure that no one's fucking anyone else over. Republicans, on the flip side of that coin, right, and I live in southern Ohio, so I'm surrounded by this as well, they believe that government should step away from the market. They believe that government should not impose these crazy rules and let the pieces fall where they will. Let the competition weed out the bad eggs. And after talking with both sides, I've come to a conclusion. And my conclusion is that Democrats and Republicans operate from the idea of a distrust of power. And what do I mean by that? Well, Democrats believe that we need regulation. Why do they believe that? I feel like they believe this from my own personal experience, right? Because I could be full of shit, I don't know. But people are inherently going to cut corners. A corporation is going to cut corners in order to reach its bottom line, right? Because they have shareholders and they need to make sure that they make a profit. And in order to make the most profit possible, they have to cut costs. That means putting jobs overseas. You know, your clothes that you're wearing right now while watching this video, if you're in America, were probably made in a sweatshop. If you have a smartphone, which most people do, it was made in a sweatshop. 110% your smartphone was definitely made in a sweatshop. I mean, fuck, it's ridiculous. If you look at what's in a smartphone, there's a mineral called coltan. And coltan can only be found in the Congo, and every smartphone needs it in order to operate. Well, in the Congo, the 10th bloodiest war in human history is going on right now. And these giant corporations are going in there, they're exploiting these people using child labor, using what they need to do, and all their tools at their disposal to make sure that they get this mineral at a low cost so that the way we can get a really cheap iPhone or a cheap smartphone. And if you think that that's okay, then I don't know what maybe you should click out of this video, because that is so wrong. I mean, if you look at the plants in, I think, China, where they developed the iPhone, these people are working like 18-hour days, and they actually set up suicide nets around the building. So if people try to commit suicide, they'll actually jump into the net, and that way they can go back to work. That may be bullshit, but I don't think it is. If it is, whatever. Now, in that sense, yeah, we need regulations. We need to make sure that these guys don't go crazy. I mean, the United States, whether you hate it or love it, is one of the apexes of civilization, right? I mean, a huge high standard of living. One of the people migrate from all over the world to be here, along with other very, awesome first world countries. It's the same thing over there as well. But, I have a problem when, this supposed beaming light of civilization is reliant on breaking the backs of third world countries and people that are less fortunate than us. I have a huge issue with that. I can't reconcile that. And I really feel that it's in the job of the government to make sure that we regulate that. But Republicans also come from a place of distrust of the powers that be. And that makes a lot of sense too. Why should we let the government look at what they're doing? Why should we let these guys regulate everything? They're corrupt as hell. I mean, they spend billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars on war. Look at the politicians. Look at the people that represent us. Do we really want these fuckheads that are running the show? I mean, Congress has a 10% approval rating. Do we really want them, of all people, to have an influence on the market? And I get that. I 100% get that. I mean, why would you want a group of people that all of a sudden has complete control over the market? That's not good either. That could lead to a lot of corruption and an over-bloated government. So you're left with this situation of kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, when I thought about this, I was like, I feel like shit. I feel kind of hopeless right now. But I feel as if people come at this from the wrong standpoint. They look at a government as if it's separate from them, right? People look at the government, oh, the government's evil, or, oh, these corporations are evil, or, insert, big power structure and call it evil here, right? And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that, it's the government that's corrupt. I don't think that the corporations are corrupt, because it's just a group of people. They're just like us. It's not that, the people in government are evil. It's that it's a group of people that may be operating under bad pretenses. But for the most part, they're just people. And you're put in this really weird situation where, who do you believe? Do you believe in anything at all? Are you an anarchist? I mean, what do you really do in this situation? Well, I believe that we are going through a form of social decay. I feel that when you have a corporation that is only focused on profits and focuses on profits more than humanity, that's awful. When you have a government that is spending $600 billion on war, that's awful. And is it really their fault? Do we put all the blame on them? Because I feel like society needs to say, okay, this is our fault too. These people are only in power. They're the best among us, right? The elected representatives, the politicians, these are supposedly the best and the brightest that we have to offer. I think George Carlin said it best. I mean, it's nuts to think that, these guys are, somehow evil and corrupt and, outside of the norm. I mean, we gave that to the system. That is the best that we can do. And that is a shame. That is just a form of society that is run amok. It's bad. And I feel like it's simply a form of social decay in the worst sense of the word. When you have a group of people that just doesn't care about the well-being of others and is willing to step on their backs in order to get what is needed done. And I don't think it's hopeless. I think there is definitely room for improvement. And I really like what Egypt's doing right now. I think Egypt is doing something very, very cool. There's this documentary on Netflix called The Square. I encourage you guys to check it out. I'm not going to get into it, but at the end of the documentary, there's this guy that they're following around, and he says, look, the revolution in Egypt is not about finding a leader to pull answers from the heaven so he can lead us to, this awesome next stage of Egypt's evolution. what the revolution symbolizes is our society wants a conscience. We want to be moral, and we want a leader to represent our morals. We want a society that is based on love and happiness and kindness, and we want the power structures to represent that. You know, you can say, oh, well, it needs to be Christian, or it needs to be in the name of God, or whatever, as long as it's operating under the right ideas. That's what's important. And I'm not one of these weird people that believes that, you know, the church needs to be in government, but there needs to be a moral center to the power structures, in my opinion. And that's the only way that we're going to solve this issue. And that's kind of a grand thing to say, oh, well, everyone needs to be nicer to each other. But that's the only way we're going to get better people into office. I mean, Thomas Jefferson said it best when he said, we need a revolution every generation. And not a revolution in the sense that's violent and, you know, you stand up to the government. He said a revolution in the way that you think. There needs to be a new way of thinking every generation. And you need to reevaluate yourself, and you need to reevaluate the world around you. You know, the Constitution is very, very old. It definitely needs updating. It's a brilliant piece of, you know, how government should be ran, but it's outdated. And, you know, the Constitution is not fit to handle the internet and things like Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin, you guys don't know, is an incredibly disruptive technology. I watched this awesome podcast on Bitcoin, and the way that Bitcoin is set up, for those of you who don't know, it's this online currency. And Bitcoin is set up in such a way that no one runs Bitcoin. There is no, like, owner of Bitcoin. It is simply a group of people that are working together to, you know, mine Bitcoin. They're trying to get more Bitcoin. But there's no one person running it, so it's impossible to shut down. And the more people that are a part of it, the more powerful the network becomes. And it's still kind of weird to me, but the way it's set up, when you start to pick apart the pieces that comprise this currency, it's set up in a way where you could actually start to have online voting from this, because Bitcoin is built in that way where, you know, you could take pieces of it and start implementing them into government, because Bitcoin relies on, you know, everyone working together, and it also has this voting system inside of it as well that can't be tampered with. You could use that for elections. On top of that, it's a currency of the world. It's not a currency where it's like, okay, you go to America to use Bitcoin, and then you go to Russia and use this currency. No, Bitcoin is everywhere. It's an internet currency, which means it has no borders. So, let's try and take this back a little bit, because I just went all over the place. What does this mean for capitalism? Well, I don't know. I know that the internet dissolves borders. Things like Bitcoin dissolve borders. Will capitalism thrive in whatever is coming down the pipeline? Because it seems to me like we're heading in this direction where borders are becoming a thing of the past. And you have, you know, countries like China and Russia and the United States that all have their own currency. You know, for those of you who don't know, I mean, our currency, the dollar, is not even backed by gold anymore. I mean, it's basically backed by oil. It has no value other than what we say it has. And then you have Bitcoin that comes along and just shakes everything up, and it's still shaking things up. This is like stage 1, from what I've seen, of what's to come. So, is that going to completely overthrow capitalism? Probably not. Probably not. But all of these little trends, like what's going on with Egypt, the fact that, you know, 1 billion more people are on the internet, you know, Bitcoin, all of this stuff is kind of showing me that you have these groups of people who are looking for something better than what is in place. And, you know, capitalism is great, but it can't be built upon the backs of the people that are less fortunate than us. And that's all I really got to say on the matter. I'm not incredibly knowledgeable on the subject, but this is just my 2 cents, guys. I hope you enjoyed this commentary or rant. I don't really know where we ended up. I hope you enjoyed it, though. And until next time, take it easy. That was good. That was good. I enjoyed that. Take it easy. Until next time. Till next video. Which will probably be in a few hours. Peace.
You see, pal, that's who I am, and you're nothing. Nice guy, I don't give a shit. Good father? Fuck you. Go home and play with your kids. You want to work here? Close. You think this is abuse? You think this is abuse, you cocksucker? You can't take this. How can you take the abuse you get on a sit? You don't like it? Leave.